Hello, welcome ladies and gentlemen to another lovely, awesome episode over here of the Slovak Mountain Man of Gaming. It's been a while since we've made, an episode like this, but P. Fiddly Diddly is here to join us, today, because there's a lot of talk about Final Fantasy, the hype is real once again, because Square Enix decided they were gonna make like this presentation on Final Fantasy 15. So let's hope that, with Final Fantasy 15, they bring the series back to its original roots, with the original games and what made the series into such an awesome and like memorable franchise like 30 years later or something, So Phil over here and we're gonna be talking about our like favorite memories or what got us into this game, to prepare for the new one coming out in September. So let's do this, shall we? Here's number one over here. Phyllis has played them, I believe. So let's take it away, Phil.
Number one, awesome game. It doesn't really have a story, but a lot of exploration, and you have to talk to every NPC just to find out where you have to go next. It's one of my favorite Final Fantasy games, and even the games now, the main character, the Warrior of Light, he's the strongest Final Fantasy character of all time.
The game originally came out in 1987, I believe, on the NES, or you can even play him portable,
This one.
Yeah, on the PSP and good stuff.
This one is the greatest version of number one ever. It's 2 times the size of the first one. They added 7 dungeons and a whole nother ending and everything. It's really cool. I went to high school and I wasn't doing my homework and stuff, so my mother stole my Xbox 360 and gave it to my dean or something like that. So, I made a deal with one of my friends and got this PSP here, getting this game and a bunch of other Final Fantasy games. And I used to leave school so I could hide in my closet or something just so I could play this game. That's how awesome it was. This classic, good one here. Well, Final Fantasy II was only released in Japan, and I could see why. The story is awesome and everything, the characters are really cool, but the battle system sucked. You didn't level up by getting experience, you leveled up from, attacking people. Your axe level would level up from how many times you attacked somebody with your axe. So it ended up just turning into your entire party trying to find, a weak enemy so you could beat each other up. You could do everything at the beginning of the game, which was kind of weird, but yeah, that's all about Final Fantasy II.
Here's the weird thing about, back in the day when Final Fantasy just came out, there were, 6 of them were already out in Japan, but in the US there was only I think number 1, number 2, and then this is number 6, but on the cover it says number 3, so it's very confusing to some people, which is really weird. But this here, Final Fantasy VI for the Super Nintendo, is my favorite Final Fantasy. I got it in the flea market for $10, and from that intro, the opening music and scene with the snow in the background, I remember it was yesterday, it was on this TV here, and my hairs, little shivers, I can feel them, right now as I talk about this. But everything about this game is so awesome. It was 80 or 60 hours I put into this, I think, and it took me maybe a few months, and it wasn't just a game, that I played in 1 week or something, I experienced everything, went to talk to each of these characters, saw their backstory and stuff. The scenes are memorable, and still talked about 20 something years later after this game, came out. And that's what makes it my favorite over here, because it's so good.
First multiplayer too.
What?
Remember, you could put in your second controller and play with your pals?
Yeah, you can do that in this too, which is insane.
Yeah.
But I didn't play that because, gotta experience the RPG on my own first. But if you haven't played this is basically on every single device similar to 1 and 2, but I would highly recommend the original over the other ones, because some people said, they've changed some stuff and it's a little different. But if I had to choose one Final Fantasy to play all over again, then I think it would be number 6 over here, because it's good stuff, man. I haven't played 3, but number 4 I beat on the DS over here. With Cecil and stuff. I played it on here versus the PSP version because
the DS version's actually a lot better.
Yeah, and the DS one I like a lot more. Even people said it's even harder than the other one, but what I like most about it is because the bottom, it was touch screen and you can see the map at all times instead of opening it with start on the PSP. But the PSP one had an extra chapter or something.
Yeah.
So it's you want to play this one or this one or both?
I have the other version and that's the one I play, but I want them to port over to DS version too, so I could try out the new stuff. There's a character that you could mess with his face and name him and stuff. There's a bunch of random stuff in the DS one you don't have in the other versions.
But yeah, in number 4 it is also really memorable and stuff, I get invested, that's what happens to these RPGs. But what sucks is I was leveling up my characters on Bravely Default with one hand, right? And on the DS over here, I was playing with the other hand, doing the same, leveling up all my characters in Final Fantasy IV. And I guess I died, I wasn't watching on the DS. I started over, right? And 2 seconds later, I'm like, what the butt? Why didn't I continue? I was like right at the end of the game too, maybe 1 hour or maybe 30 minutes, and I was at the final boss. I was like, what the butt? Like, oh, I think, it just accidentally pressed new game, right? I'm just gonna go to my load game and continue. But when you press new game, I must have done that in accident. It erased my entire file, So I've never actually beat number 4, but I'm gonna say I did because I saw the ending on YouTube. But it's like, what the fuck?
I'm gonna say I did.
But yeah, and then after that is what people have said probably their like favorite or one of the best Final Fantasy games ever is number 7. Don't mind this, green, very ugly greatest hits version. But yeah, Final Fantasy 7 was the first Final Fantasy I played and finished. The reason I got into Final Fantasy was right there. I'm gonna show you. But Sephiroth, his music, One Winged Angel. I even have a figurine here, because Sephiroth is so cool. And when I heard like his song, I was like, oh my god, what is this? Because it was so powerful and insane. I was like, I want to experience what makes Sephiroth so cool of a character. And that's why he's my favorite villain to this day after beating this game for like 5 years ago or 4, and I have this figurine too, it's really cool. If you don't know, back in the day, Phil over here is like, hey, you gotta play Final Fantasy, man. I'm like, no, dude.
He's like, Final Fantasy sucks.
You're not gonna, blah, blah, blah. It's like, come on, man, just give it a try. You're gonna like it and stuff. I'm like, I don't know, blah, 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 I was one of those turds, But, I'm never playing this game ever again. The remake I'll play, but the ending, the boss, I wanted to destroy my PlayStation 1 and throw this thing out the window because it's so hard.
I'm playing it again.
Yeah, he's playing again. It's a classic. I'd recommend it, but it's good stuff. And I'm pumped to see what they do with the HD version. It's gonna be awesome. And then we get to
Crisis Core. It was the prequel. Takes place before Final Fantasy 7.
I think it's like a year before or something. And then right at the end, it leads like right where that one starts, kind of. Number 7.
You play as Zack Fair, Soldier First Class, or actually starts off Soldier Third Class, and then you do your missions, you meet new people, and
the story continues where it all begins.
Yeah, you level up and become Soldier First Class.
If you've played this game, Zack is best like Final Fantasy character. Like in number 7,
Cloud, his living legacy.
Yeah, like what the butt? You can't copy him, Cloud.
The reason Cloud is because he wants to
live on or
extend Zack's legacy.
Phil gave me this because he gave me the PSP like 5 years ago, I think, and I was like, oh, what is this? I'll play it once. I played it for an hour and then I just put it down. I was like, I don't know. And then after hearing of the Final Fantasy 7 remake coming out, the HD one, I was like, you know what? I might as well play this again. It's not only like what happens before Final Fantasy 7, but it's like it talks about all the characters, and that's my favorite part.
And this game has my favorite Final Fantasy villain, good old Genesis. Jacob hates Genesis, but
can't beat Sephiroth.
Yeah, he thinks Sephiroth's better, but I like Genesis.
Can't beat Sephiroth. He's just so cool.
They were best friends as children. Sephiroth, Genesis, and Geo. All 3 of them were best friends, and slowly everything got corrupt, and everybody started going crazy.
Play the game to find out.
Play the rest of the game. It's a beautiful game. Highly recommended.
I was telling Phil, if you ever go to like a meetup of games or Final Fantasy or anything, and anyone mentions Crisis Core, every single one of the people who have played Crisis Core, there's gonna be like a little tear.
You ever say the name Zack?
Yeah, everyone's gonna look out at the corner like
they're just gonna ignore you. They'll just you'll
be walking.
You'll be walking. If you ever walk through a giant group of Final Fantasy people and you're walking straight into this big group and you just say Zack, everybody will. It'll be like Moses. They'll all walk out of the way and
or just whisper Crisis Core. It's like, is it raining outside?
Roy Mustang.
A little tear. Because I swear, the story is so good. After you beat, Final Fantasy 7, I would highly recommend watching this.
Final Fantasy Advent Children Complete Edition.
This is like the best Final Fantasy movie I've ever seen.
Best version of it too.
Yeah. I think they only made like a few movies too, but
I remember back in the day when this was still before Jacob played Final Fantasy. I don't think it was our uncle, but it was like our aunt's boyfriend or something. He had this movie on Blu-ray.
I was like,
I was like, hey guys, let's watch this. This movie's awesome. But they were like, no, let's watch something else. Yeah. And I was like, come on, this is great. And he even agreed with me. He was like, this is amazing.
This movie is good stuff. And when Final Fantasy 15, like that new movie that's coming out too,
if you're not excited for Night Scale, watch this and you will be.
Yeah, because that one, Night Scale, I was like, oh, this looks, from the trailer, it looks like
a new Advent Children.
Yeah.
It is awesome.
Even though, no Sephiroth, but still, I was like, I don't know, and it's free, so we're going to watch it. But I'd highly recommend
this. Yeah.
Then there's Spirits Within.
It's another movie. Jacob never even finished this movie.
I fell asleep.
I like it. I think it's a great Final Fantasy movie.
I don't think it's a Final Fantasy movie at all.
Well, if you watch it, it's not really Final Fantasy.
They
It's
just
more.
put the name on there.
Yeah. Well, there's Final Fantasy, and then there's like
Nope.
themes from the actual games, and then like battleships and things like that in the game, like the airships and stuff are based on the monsters and stuff. I don't know. It's weird. People don't like it because they don't think it's Final Fantasy, but I think it was a great movie.
No wonder to the used case. Nobody wants it. Moving on.
Moving on. After Final Fantasy VII,
What
we
people
have.
say is probably like the darkest Final Fantasy, or like, you know, Squall is so, you know, like emo or something.
Character.
You know? Yeah, I'm like, but what the butt? I like Squall
Squall
better
is so
than
cool.
Cloud.
Yeah.
And this game is
Cloud
so
is
good.
like the Evo character
Yeah, Cloud is
guy.
like a baby over here.
Squall
like,
is like the
Squall is awesome.
Squall is like the lone wolf, more
Yeah.
like. Yeah.
He's awesome. And
He's
this
cool.
story, ooh, little tear.
Oh yeah.
Have you
Great
played it or
story.
no?
Yeah, I
You
beat
finished
this
it?
one.
Yeah, me too. The only thing I don't like about this game is the cards, you know,
I-
where you have to like play like
Well,
this poker game or something.
I
I
like
couldn't
it.
get into it.
Triple Triad.
I couldn't get into it, you know.
I still play it to this day on Final Fantasy XIV. I gamble away for some gil.
This game took me about a year to beat because I remember hearing from a friend, if you play this game and you know, fight all the enemies and you level up, they level up too, you know. So what I decided to do is like, you know, take a challenge. I'm gonna beat this game on the lowest level I can, you know. So I thought, oh, that's gonna be easy, but that's like a million times harder than, you know, actually playing through the game. I finally made it to the end and I beat the boss, you know, my first try. It was quite an insane journey, but it was a good one at that, you know.
Fam. Final Fantasy IX.
I've only played an hour of this one, but what I've played so far, I really like it because it's like Final Fantasy's take on the Renaissance, you know? There's life everywhere. Whenever you walk into like the town or whatever, you see like all the people, you can talk to them.
Yep.
They're funny little cheesy stories, and the music is good stuff. It feels like you were back in the medieval days, you know?
So they try to go for like the classic approach on the Final Fantasy games with airships and like boats and world map and everything huge.
Some people say it's like their favorite. And
Yeah,
the
people
best,
say
you
this
know.
is like one of the best games
Yeah, Final
ever,
Fantasy.
not just Final Fantasy.
It's also coming out in HD. The reason I held it off is because I heard there's going to be like a HD port or something coming out on PC. So I'd rather play through that one, you know. But if it doesn't work on my computer, then I'll just, you know, continue this because I've heard this is, you know, to some people, this is like the last great Final Fantasy. Next one is Final
Bam.
Fantasy X. I really like this one too.
This
Tidus
game's
over here.
awesome. Ha ha ha!
The voice acting is cheesy up the rear, I swear. But it's good stuff. Like, after I beat 7, I think I played 8, and then I went right to 10, you know. My favorite part, I think, besides Lulu, character Lulu, my favorite, the most awesome thing I think that they did in this one, that I haven't seen in the other Final Fantasy so far, is the leveling up system, you know.
Yeah.
Where it's like this huge giant grid map thing.
It's a grid, and you
Yeah, and
choose
then, like,
what you level up
Yeah.
based on like the points you gain.
Like, Lulu is like a mage, you know, you can level up her magic stuff and she'll be powerful, but if you don't want her to be that, you can like just make her like really strong or something. She can like punch a dude in the face or something. Not only that, but you can't, you know, talk about Final Fantasy X without mentioning Blitzball.
Blitzball! The
Blitzball.
greatest minigame of all time!
I hate Blitzball. People say that you know, you play it
Coming
once,
to the golden saucer.
you play it once, right? You Blitzball and you're gonna hate it, right? You play it again and you're gonna slowly start to, you know, like it. And then, you know, if you figure out how to play it, it's gonna be the best game ever. I tried like 50 times, but I can't get it, you know, I couldn't do it. It's like underwater soccer, right? And Tidus can barely even move. I'm like, what the butt are you
Tidus
doing?
can't swim.
He can't swim, and he's like, he's supposed to be the best Blitzball, you know, player
Of
in the
all
world.
time.
Yeah, like what the butt? But it's good stuff. The music is top notch as well, you know. Speaking of this one, there's also 10-2, and in both games, I almost got 100% without even knowing it, you know. That's how invested I was in the world of Final Fantasy X. But yeah, number 2 is a sequel as well, but it's really weird. I played it like the same day I beat number 10, I played this one, I started. And right from the like first seconds, you see Yuna, who was like one of the main characters in that one. She's starting to dance. It's like, what the butt? And singing, and then she has these guns. It's like, what the butt? Yuna, who was like this
Use the staff, use to summon people.
yeah, she's like dancing, you know, all
She's
that
a
good
mage.
stuff in here. In this one, she has like these guns. It's like, holy glob. It's so insane. I don't know how long it's been since this game finished. It's really cool because in this one you also have like class changes. It's similar to Bravely Default,
Yeah.
where you can be like a mage, you can be like a ninja or something.
That's cool. The
Because,
job
like,
system, pretty
yeah,
much.
it's really cool, but it's still really weird. But yeah, there's that. And
Bam.
After that, I haven't played this one, but Phyllis, I think this is his favorite.
My favorite Final Fantasy game
Number
right
12
here.
over here.
People hate it. I love it. Sky Pirates for the win. Balthier, you know, beautiful guy. Awesome game. This game's beautiful. The gameplay, you know, it's like the older Final Fantasies.
Something like an MMO
Super
or something?
open world. Yeah, it kind of plays like the MMO games,
Like
you
the
know,
combat?
where kind of like the combat, like, you know, it's not like turn-based. You just walk up to them and you can fight them there and stuff. It's really cool.
And there's been a rumor that soon
they might release an HD. I'm pretty hyped for that.
That'd be awesome. Because
So cool.
Phyllis over here was telling me that he played it, he was almost done with it, like almost to the end or something, and then I think he let Pep, our other brother, play, and he like scratched the disc.
So
and he
I
couldn't
can't
continue or finish
continue.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would be awesome if we got an HD version. This is also Patrick's favorite Final Fantasy game. I think it's
this
the
is
only one he played,
yeah.
but even he says this game's awesome. Like, this game is extremely addicting. When you start this, and on like March 1st, and then it'll be like March 10th, and you'll realize you haven't slept in 10 days. Yeah, this game's great. This is one of the games that Square Enix made that is in the Ivalice
world universe.
Ivalice, and then Final Fantasy
Tactics.
Tactics. This game is also awesome. All the Ivalice games are like beautiful. This game is also an Ivalice, and this is. Some people say this is the greatest Final Fantasy game. You know, there's like cheesy stuff in there, crossovers with the other games. Like, you can find a time machine and then Cloud will like appear, which is like a secret thing you find in the game. And then in this one, they added more stuff because it was like Greatest Hits and War of the Lions, the upgraded version of that one.
And many people don't seem to talk about this. You know, they skip Final Fantasy
they like
Tactics.
skip this game, but this game is amazing. This is like if you combine Final Fantasy with like Fire Emblem type battles and stuff. And like in this game, like I said, Ivalice, you'll find like Balthier, or you'll find a person from the other Final Fantasy
and they all
Tactic
connect,
games.
you know, you don't have to play
They all
the other
connect,
ones,
yeah.
but if you do, you'll, you know, get like little Easter
Get the
eggs and
story.
hints and stuff.
It's really cool. This game's
Then,
awesome.
After 12, some people say this is where, you know, Square Enix went downhill with 13. I don't know if Phil has the other ones, but there's 3 parts to
I have the other ones digitally.
13. I think it's
Yeah,
called?
13, 13-2, and 13.
Yeah.
And Lightning Returns.
I haven't played this, but take it away, Phil.
In my opinion, this game's story is awesome. It's Lightning is super awesome, but most of them are really cool characters. One's a little whiny child until like the end of the game.
Some stuff doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but it's a good game if you're watching it.
It's like a movie.
It's more of like
Walk 2 feet and
it's
then
more of on
cutscene.
rail. Yeah, it's more of a like on rail game than it is a open world RPG. It's not really open world until you get to like disc 3, then it becomes open world, but at that point you're already pretty much at the end of the game. But until then, you gotta bear with it. The story's really good.
Yeah,
like
3 games. You
at least beat disc 1 and you'll be addicted to this game until the end.
And then they brought back with number 14 now, which is
14 was also an MMO,
Yeah.
but it like mixes all the Final Fantasy games together. The first Final Fantasy 14, people said it was really bad. So Square Enix did like this really cool thing where
they blew up the entire like universe and made it look like a cutscene, you know.
They told everybody that, you know, in about 3 months from now, we're gonna release a few updates, and after that, this game will be shut down. So people were like going crazy. They're like, "What? We like this game. Please don't do that." And then you see like
there was like a countdown or something.
There was the moon. Yeah, the moon is in the sky.
And then right when the moon like was about to get down,
after
a
all the
cutscene
updates,
plays.
yeah, a cutscene.
And every single person who saw it at that time, you know, saw this cutscene, and it looked really cool. Phil showed me where like there was like things were falling from the sky. Every like character in the game was like,
people are like fighting.
Like,
and then the moon explodes, and you have everything. The whole storyline and everything from that game is gone.
Yeah,
so unless you were there, you can't play. And people said it was really good. Like, the story was good, it's just the gameplay was weird.
And if you play the new one that's like on PlayStation 4, you can kind of see like little...
It's like a sequel. It's a sequel.
Yeah, but you can see like little, you know, like the buildings that were burned down from the first part.
There's like destroyed areas and stuff from
the moon and stuff. It's really cool.
It's really cool. And then it's a sequel, so it like talks about that like 5 years ago, the calamity happened and stuff.
Yep.
It's really cool.
You can have all the like universes of Final Fantasy into one giant game. You know, like you can have 6 in there. You can have like 7. You know, like the different worlds.
You can go into the Golden Saucer and play Triple Triad, Blitzball, or Chocobo Race.
But yeah,
Dissidia, Final Fantasy. This game is pretty much
it's like fighting.
The Final Fantasy fighting game. It is awesome.
It's like Smash Bros, but in Final Fantasy.
I enjoyed this game. It is so good. Like. it has its own fighting system. Like you have to attack people with, I think, bravery attacks, and then when you do like your offensive attack, it'll
20
take down their damage.
20 or 30 different like characters. This is the first one. Here's the sequel.
It's like
it brings back over.
Yeah, it's all like this one's from like 1 to 10, I think. It's every hero and villain, main hero and villain of the Final Fantasy games fight each other.
It's really cool. Even if they were like on the Super Nintendo, like sprites and stuff, they're
remade into like current
3D and stuff. It's really cool. Like you can see Kefka in here, which is awesome. But yeah, it's not only like a fighting game, but there's kind of like a little story too.
There's a storyline and it explains everything, how everybody got into the universe.
It was also online.
And
there's a new one coming out too.
Yeah,
which is gonna be cool. Hopefully they bring it out outside of Japan, because I think it's only in arcades right now. It's supposed to be like a HD version.
Rumors it's coming to PS4 next year, but Square Enix ain't saying nothing about it.
This one is one of my favorites.
Yeah, Rhythm.
Yeah, this is the sequel. There's 2 of them. I recommend getting this one because it includes all the DLC from the first game as well. This is on the 3DS, and this is a rhythm game. Final Fantasy is known for its, like awesome music and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what you get here. It combines an RPG with rhythm. Like every time you tap, you do damage to
like
an enemy
attack. And if you start messing up, the enemy starts beating you up, and your characters have HP and stuff.
It's really cool. Then like 50 over here.
Kingdom Hearts.
Nothing but Kingdom
Hearts. We're getting into Kingdom Hearts here. Yeah, beautiful game. Still my favorite. It's my favorite Kingdom Hearts game. Yeah, PlayStation 2.
Then number 2 over here. Similar, also PlayStation 2. I didn't let Phil play this until he beat Metal Gear. He's like, oh yeah, whatever, I already beat Metal Gear. And he got himself the HD remasters, which includes not only number 1 and 2.
This is every game between 1 and 2, so like 1 Chain of Memories and then 358/2 days.
Yeah, and now we're waiting for number 3. Or he's waiting,
And this is Kingdom Hearts 2, Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, and then Rechained or whatever.
But yeah, I've only played Kingdom Hearts for about an hour before I started seeing like Tidus or whatever, because I stopped. Because Kingdom Hearts, even though it's like, a story of its own, it has Disney characters, which, I'm pretty familiar with. And then also it combines, Final Fantasy characters in there too. So instead of being like random, like characters, like, oh, this is Tidus, who is that? I'm deciding to play the Final Fantasy games first to have like their backstory and stuff before, playing through Kingdom Hearts. Yeah. So, they're not like empty characters, so they have like
it's really awesome
story in the background.
And I recommend Kingdom Hearts. Great game. Give you feels like there's no tomorrow. Get some tears.
Speaking of, go right the game.
Nier
is good stuff. I got this for like $10. I guess many people haven't played it or something.
Probably never heard of it, but they recently announced a sequel at E3.
I had a heart attack. I'm like, I wasn't expecting a sequel to come out. Like, I didn't know this was even popular. But Nier has some of the best music I've ever heard in like any RPG. It's so good. It's so memorable. Not only that, but the game is fun as well. The story is like, it's like emotional. It gets you, like this father is trying to find like something has happened to his daughter and stuff.
Yeah.
But my favorite part of Nier is the fishing.
Fishing. The fishing in Nier is like top quality. You ever play RPG with fishing?
You ought to play Nier.
You want to play Nier.
Because like, you have to talk to this old guy and he keeps teaching you stuff, like new fishing techniques. Yeah, and you have to like buy like worms, or you can catch them, or like different fish. But yeah, Nier is not only about fishing, but that was one of my favorite parts.
Yeah.
It's an awesome RPG and it reminds me of Bayonetta. Now the next game over here, Xenoblade X. I've been excited for Xenoblade X for the longest of time, like ever since it was called X during E3, I'm gonna have to make a video on this because I spent like 80 hours the first week it came out on this game alone, and that's insane for me, Usually I spend that much time on, in a few months on a game, but this game got me and it addicted me, right? But what's awesome is the huge, ginormous world, right, that you can interact in, and all of the giant dinosaurs and creatures and craziness that you can do. And what I was saying, this game is on the Wii U. Can you imagine if this was like on a more powerful, console? Even though I like the Wii U and stuff, it's not as powerful as, like the Xbox or PlayStation 4. And then we saw Final Fantasy 15, the trailer out of nowhere, and that gameplay, and I was like, holy god, my wishes have been granted. When you watch the trailer, or if you play like episode Deuce, I think it's called, for Final Fantasy 15, Ramu, he's the lightning like dude. You're the size of his like hand, right? Like this. And he's like this huge, insane
summon
guy. Yeah, not only that, that's only one summon. Imagine all the other ones, right?
We've only seen three or so summons.
They've shown the Titan in the demo. They've shown
4, because they showed Carbuncle, who's also a summon, but he's kind of a small one.
Yeah, but still, the demo for Final Fantasy 15 got me hyped, and that's why we're making this video with all this crazy Final Fantasy stuff. Because for me, Final Fantasy series is up there with like Zelda and all the other ones I like to play, and I didn't even know we had all these games. Like, that's insane.
My 3 like main games up there are like Metal Gear and Kingdom Hearts, and then Final Fantasy's like on the level of Kingdom Hearts. It's pretty up there for me. Like, I'm crazy about Metal Gear, but Final Fantasy,
Yeah.
you know.
So, I'm so excited that number 15 looks like it's gonna go back to its roots. So I hope it does and promises.
And it looks like it too.
Yeah, live up to the hype. Because that demo, it was only a tech demo, but I really like what I saw so far. But those trailers, plus a free movie and anime over here, it's gonna be insane. And not only that, but the collector's edition also includes like a movie and stuff, but also like an
And
art
like a
book and stuff.
200-page art
Yeah,
book.
but if you missed out on the art book, you can always get this right here.
This right here.
I almost forgot to mention this in the video, but I found this for like, I got it online. It was like $20 or $15, and it includes art from the first to
awesome.
10th game. It's really pretty. It's the original creator right there. I don't know what his name is. Yoshitaka Amano. And if you've seen the Final Fantasy 15, presentation, you saw how awesome it was. Like, his art transformed into 3D to create the logo for Final Fantasy 15. It was so cool.
Awesome.
It was so awesome. But yeah, I recommend finding this if you can. It's a really pretty book. It's really bright and it's really, printed well. And
I
you can see
recommend
his
I
different-
find it too.
Yeah, I had him look through it before and it was good
like,
stuff.
Awesome. It's awesome.
But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you like this video, this Final Fantasy talk where we talked about, our love of the games as well as some that, we'd rather not talk about or, some, knockoffs or, little movies and stuff. But if you enjoyed this, tell us in the comments below, are there any games you want to replay or that you recommend to us? Or you want to have like HD versions similar to how Final Fantasy 7 is having? Or, any recommendations? Or, tell us the first time you've played Final Fantasy. Are you excited for number 15? Or do you, not even care? Did you watch the trailers? Are you hyped? But other than that, thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you want more videos like this with Phyllis and I just talking about like a series or whatever, then leave it in the comments below. But hopefully you enjoy this because we did like something similar to this when we played Final Fantasy 15 demo, the Platinum demo. We sat there for like 2 hours, playing the game, which normally takes like 10 or 15 minutes. But we spent like 2 hours just looking through every corner and just talking about our Final Fantasy like stuff, But yeah, thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. And see you on another lovely episode of The Slovak Mountain Man. Hoo-ha!